And so do you think, to broaden those still further, do you think that culturally we're becoming incapable of digesting and assimilating because technology enables us to preserve everything?
Well, I mean, there's 2 points there. I mean, we're labouring, I think, under a myth at the moment that technology will preserve everything for us. It won't. Nothing ever can. The very fact that page 404 means something to everything. The internet is not eternal, nor should it be. I mean, there's particular problems in terms of online literary magazines, which thrive on links, and yet the links keep on disappearing. So, I mean, I have no confidence whatsoever that the internet will create the Babel library we've always dreamed of. The other thing, which is slightly more insidious, I've had a slight kind of road to Damascus experience with Google Books. I was very, very opposed to it until I started using it. And for books which are out of print, this is a wonderful resource. I can find things that otherwise I'd have had to take a trip down to London and go to the British Library to read. But people start to search them, and they don't read the book. They read the bits of the book that conform to their searches. So, you can put in, I don't know, buttons in Vanity Fair and get every reference to buttons quite easily. I mean, I remember this because the chapter in my book on Dickens, I remember hearing of a theory, reading about a theory that Jaspers was in a thuggy cult, and it all revolved around silk scarves. And it took me, a good day rereading Edwin Drood to find the references to silk scarves in it. Whereas if I'd put it into Project Gutenberg, I'd have got the references immediately. But I prefer having read the book so that when the silk scarf does come up, I know the context and I know what's built up to that point. I do worry that, on one hand, something like Google Books is incredible, and it absolutely should usher in a new age of meritocracy, that the idea that any house in the country can have access to the British Library and the Bodleian is staggering and makes me very hopeful. The idea that universities can gatekeep is redundant now, but we've got to learn how to read online. We can't just skimp. We can't just cherry pick the bits we want. So, it's great having the texts, but have we learned to read them? It's back completely to your point about having unread books. We now have practically double the Library of Alexandria unread on every PC.
Stuart, let me just ask you one final question. If there were one work which is currently lost, which you would personally love to see found, mine would be Sibelius' Eighth Symphony, which he destroyed himself. That's my confession. What would yours be?
It's always a really difficult one, this. In a way, the sort of two obvious choices would be one of the lost Shakespeare plays. Although Cardenio is a late play, it could be that it's only as good as The Two Noble Kinsmen and not as good as The Winter's Tale. If there were a Love's Labours one, again, it might not be as good as one hoped. Homer's Margites, the comedy epic he did, sounds intriguing, but as anyone that's read sort of new comedy in Greek knows, the sense of humour is one of the things that dates most quickly. I found it hilarious in a sad way that when we got back some of Menander's plays, having thought when he was lost that he was the acme of comic genius, and the plays turned out to have plots like "Whoops, I raped somebody." This was just disastrous. If there's one thing I could have, I think I'd like something that only I would get as much pleasure from. Everyone would like a play by Milton, or everyone would like the whole of Kubla Khan. I think only I would like to have perhaps one of the Scottish plays that the Wedderburn brothers did. We go on in Scotland about not having a theatrical tradition, and I keep on saying, well, we had one, we just managed to lose all the copies. And I doubt it would be very good, but it would be very interesting. So I'd probably see James Wedderburn's merry comedy of Dionysius the Tyrant.
Stuart Kelly. The Book of Lost Books is out now in paperback. That's all for this Blackwell Online podcast. But as ever, you can find out more details and order the book, plus several million others, at blackwell.co.uk. You'll also find a podcast archive there of around 100 author interviews. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Until next time, thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.